Okay, so I'm going to bring you my 10 best comics of 2022 after the misery of the TV and film genres, formats, medium, whatever you want to call it. Like I said in that video, the positivity I needed and the imagination and the creativity and the skill, everything I look for in comics was where it is for me. It has always been unbiased, and I've cheated a little bit. But all this is going to be, I'm not going to do my deep dives. Everything, obviously my top 10 is everything that I would have done a deep dive looking through each issue, etc, etc. So this is literally going to be recommending my top 10 plus a few honourable mentions. I've cheated a little bit, but we'll get into that after the scroll. Bonjour. Right, let's get right into it. DC have been doing a sensational job with the Bat books. Yeah, I know. If you look at DC's roster and see how many are from the Bat family, yeah, no, I agree. It's a bit like X-Men and Spider-Man over at Marvel. But I tell you what, they have been doing a fantastic job. The editorial department, publishing, whatever you call it, the Bat office have been doing. So what I've done, I've really cheated. At number 10 are the Bat books. Right, now listen, I'm not doing the Robins and the everything. I'm talking about the top Bat books. And this is in these just all in at number 10 as a recommendation to you. If you want to get into comics, I was put off of comics just before the pandemic by a lot of well, no, I'll tell you what, a select few on YouTube that I decided to listen to that said it's full of identity politics and gender agendas. No, just do not listen to the naysayers. If you, like me, have avoided comics or you're trying to find your way back, please do, and hopefully you can do that via some of my recommendations. These Bat books have been superb. I mean, this one at the end of the year from Mark Silvestri, just a creator at the top of his game. This one shot, this Mr. Freeze, these one bad day books have been a bit hit and miss, but this one was awesome. And I've got a soft spot for Mr. Freeze. It doesn't make sense, does it? Is that an oxymoron? I don't know. The Batman, the main Batman book, under the stewardship of Zdarsky and Jimenez, I tell you what, Chip Zdarsky on the writing duties and Jimenez on the art. And I know I'm only showing you covers, but if you can get these in collected editions from this, you know, this year's lot next year, you know, if you want to delve back in, and where that Batman is the straightforward, what I would call your, you know, your traditional the Bat book detective. This has kind of been a bit of a revelation for me, to be fair, because they got right back into something different. It's quite a gothic feel, as you can see from the covers. Quite a gothic feel to it, and Albuquerque on the art duties on this book. It's just like I say, I've really loved these books, and they've got some storylines that will obviously be collected into graphic novels. So, you know, have a look at my yearly, you know, flip through them, do what you want with them. But if you want to see the artwork, and this Mark Waid, you know, a kind of writer from, you know, it's doing him a disservice to say a writer from yesteryear, but a writer from way back, from when I remember, you know, as I'm getting well into me comics. And this world's finest has just been a romp. You can just tell that everyone involved, and more as art, then more as art. Again, you know, when you get them writer and artist teams, just superb. So the back books is in at number 10, just like those ones. Like I'm saying, not the extended back family. I'm not saying none of them are all the rest are crap. All I'm saying is these are the ones I've read. These are the ones I've physically picked up in the comic shop. I've spoken to my old mate Paul, who runs it, and we've gone through. And you know, I'm not saying everything I've picked up has been gold. It hasn't. So that I've distilled down the back family books, because there are a lot there that aren't great. But I want to talk up the ones that are good. I want to talk up the good ones, and that's why on that subject, just before I roll on, get your asses back into comic book shops. I don't care what country you're in. I mean, I only really know UK and America, to be fair. I don't know about European comic book shops. They're a different slant. But come on, guys, online's good, but there's nothing like getting back into the shops, getting back into that shop, talking to a comic book shop guy about everything you love. Should we do it? Come on, let's do it. Now, so from DC at number 10, Marvel at number 9. And this is where I'll go back to Paul at my Comics and Fantasy in Hornchurch in Essex. And I asked him what the fuss was about this one. Yeah? About Punisher. And he's got a new, and this was about 6 months ago. And it's about his new symbol, and he hasn't got guns anymore, and he's got samurai swords. And he just turned around and he went, mate, that's one of the best books Marvel do. Took his word for it. And I'm in. I don't think it's going to last forever. I just think it's an arc that's going to change Frank Castle. But that is a great, and as you can see, Daredevil involved as well. And it's just an Aaron and Science and the guy as a cassette that does the flashbacks, because as you can see from that cover, Maria's back, and they didn't bring her back, and all right, okay, they are using the conceit of mysticism in it, you know, in it, and it's about the hand and the fist and the this and the that. But I tell you what, they're mixing it up in such a good way. I've got to admit, in such an engaging way. You know, just when you think you knew all there was about Frank, I wouldn't say they're redefining him or rebooting it or deconstructing him, Frank Castle. I just think they've come from the story in a different way. They're kind of filling in a few little holes that no one's really put in a story before. That's what I think they're doing. But I have been enjoying it. And if you think that just because he hasn't got guns, he's not Frank Castle anymore, I'll tell you what, it's just as violent. It's just as violent. At number 8, and this will obviously be collected in these AWA books, this Sacrament, a little 5-issue mini-series from Peter Milligan, which is just The Exorcist in space. I've just really enjoyed. I've really enjoyed. It's, I won't say a simple story, I will say straightforward. He's taken the idea and he's given it interesting characters, and he's given us a beginning, middle, end. That will make a great, like a lot of the AWA stuff have done, that they really have done, and they continue to do a really good job. And that is something that I really, you know, I might be a little bit biased because I followed Peter Milligan from way back in the 2000 AD days and all that, and then through into Vertigo and stuff. So I kind of get his shtick, but nevertheless, just give it a go. It's only 5 issues. It'll make a nice slim graphic novel. You know, if you're thinking, oh, I'm in and ahhing, and you don't like the superhero stuff, because the superhero stuff, I think, is out looking. I'm just looking at my pile of counting down to my number 1 comic. You've got Marvel and DC out. They're out of the way now. All the rest of this is independent stuff, and that's where it's been at this year for me. It's exactly where it's been at, where you have got, by and large, like AWA, Boom Studios, Image. I'm finding that they are becoming really solid editorial teams, production teams, that are looking at this stuff. They're asking themselves what the audience is, and is there an audience for it? And I know it's niche. We're talking about comics, monthly comics, and I know how niche that is. But nevertheless, it is where it's at in the independent stuff, because you're getting something like Exorcist in Space. And then we come along to someone like Mark Millar, superstar writer. And I've done a deep dive on this Magic Order comic. But I just found it, I don't know, I just found something about the way he treats, and it's about like magic in the modern age, but like a group of people that, you know, they've got this legacy. You think you know where the story's going, and the legacy goes way back when, and how they are adapting to the modern era. It was just, Mark Millar, you know, he can write stuff like this with his eyes shut, can't he? This is a recent one, but it came along, and I've got to say, it's by Jason Aaron. Alexandra Tofengi has done the artwork, but you know, there's something about it's obviously a post-apocalyptic story, but there's something, like, as you can see on the cover, there's something about the sweetness, and I don't mean saccharine, there's something about the sweetness of the story, of the heroine of the story, discovering, how can I describe it without being too spoilery? But yeah, it's just a sweet story about a post-sweet, almost like, it's only issue 1, I've got issue 2 this week, so, but I was so engaged with issue 1, couldn't wait for issue 2 to find out more about how these two characters, and he's kind of chasing after her, he's kind of like pining almost for her, and she's the strong one, which, you know, in TV and film is being overdone, but in this, Jason Aaron is pitching it perfectly. Got no problem with it, got no problem with strong female characters, which leads me nicely on to this one. And I'll go on, honey, she is a strong female lead, and I like it for its full on, no holds barred, does exactly what it says on the tin. It is a pulp, and it says it on each issue. Someone's quoting it saying it is the finest of pulp noir, and it is. It's just, I say it's just, but that sounds like I'm doing it a disservice, to be fair. But it is a good pulpy thriller with, again, the main character as a woman. This next one, Earth Divers. Now, there's something really, the artwork is beautiful for a start, which always helps. David Guillenfelice, I don't know how, sorry, I apologise, David, if you are listening. Artwork is sensational, but the story by Stephen Graham Jones, it's a time trap. Obviously, what you can, Earth Divers kill Columbus, kind of gives you enough teaser. I'm not going to say any more about the storyline of it, but suffice to say, it is beautifully illustrated, and the story, third issue, come out a week or two ago, that will make another sensational graphic novel, and that's IDW. And I know they're struggling. I know, you know, they lost their licenses, and those old naysayers, them old naysayers on YouTube saying, you know, comics are dead and it's all load of woke nonsense. No, just please ignore them. There is woke nonsense out there, don't get me wrong, but there'll be woke nonsense in books, there's woke nonsense in TV and film, but you've got to avoid it. Just don't avoid the entire medium, please. If ever you've been interested in getting engaged with it, or like me, if you're lapsed, just dive in, get in the shop, talk to someone about it. This has just been, again, a little, just a fantasy quest book out of nowhere. I mean, I don't know whether I should know Wes Craig's name as an artist. Wordy and Andweld doing the art and lettering. The art, but there's something about the artwork on this, and I did do a review of it, and I will probably. There's something about the artwork and the fantasy storyline of this that I don't know. It's just gripped me right from the start. Again, some engaging fantasy characters. It's a quest story. It's a fantasy quest story, and a lot of these independent stories have been, but there's nothing wrong with getting back to basics and just giving us some different characters and, sprinkling on your own flavour, your own story. And sprinkling on your own flavour and your own story, there was one person that was using heavy spice this year, and it was Liam Sharp with this. All I can say is he wrote it and he painted it. It is beautiful, and it is as mad as a bag of frogs. But I just loved the experimental madness. I think this angered some people, this book, because of its insanity. But this is my number 2 book of the year, just because of its insanity. Oh, by the way, sorry, because I weren't counting down. Was I? Kaya was my number 3. Perhaps I'll do a list on the thumbnail or something. Kaya was my number 3. I'm counting down to the number 1. But that was a great romp. It's probably best in graphic novel format, if I'm honest. Listen, I'm a geekyOlhog. I'm going to buy the individual issues whenever I can all day long. I'm not saying that I am averse to a graphic novel, as you can see, and the ones you can't see. So I'm not averse to a graphic novel collected edition. But that one does lend itself to sitting down with a black coffee and starting it, and don't put it down, because once you put it down and you've wandered off and you come back, you won't have a clue again what's going on. But I don't know why I loved it so much, the insanity of it. Yeah, I won't say defies description, because that's a bit ridiculous. But so I've enjoyed all of them, all the way counting down to my number 1 book. That it was the 3rd issue that really, I enjoyed it from the first issue. Jeff Johns writing it, Gary Frank on the art, and Gary Frank's artwork, and Jeff Johns writing on this. I don't know if Jeff Johns has been wanting to do this book for years. It feels like Junkyard Joe is something that has been within him for a long while, and he's been trying to find a home for it. Because this, I tell you what, I thought I knew what it was going to be, and it just isn't. It just really isn't. It's got so much heart to it. By the time you get to that 3rd episode, that 3rd issue, and again, this will probably resonate with people if you this year moving forward, if you don't want to chase around getting free back issues, which, go on, do it if you can. I don't think they're, unless you want some kind of 1 in a million variant and all the rest of it. Buy the books you can get hold of and read them. Yeah, bag and board them, but other than that, enjoy them. Because I tell you what, it's a beautifully written. It's kind of like a slow paced book and that's all I can say, with so much heart. You think it starts in the Vietnam War, and you think you know where it's going, and from the cover, you don't even have to look inside there. You think you know where it's going. Oh yeah, and no, it don't. It proper. And there's something about the oldie-weldy kind of story that Jeff Johns is unravelling, with the central family and the old man, and that's all I'm going to say. And this, for me, what a beautiful cover. And I did say this, I think I did mention this in one of my weekly reviews. Just, I hope that's coming through nicely. On the that, look at how beautiful that cover is, and a beautiful read as well. It really did, and that was the third issue that kind of really gripped me. That really kind of changed. You know, if I was a train thinking, yeah, I know what station we're going to with this. I know where we're going. No way. He proper turned the tracks on me. Not in any kind of massive twist of a story, but just in just a really, you can just tell a writer at the top of his game, being steered by a decent, experienced editorial department, honing him and Gary Frank together. Gary Frank's best artwork I've ever seen him do. So that's my top 10. That was my comic of the year. That it's a shame that I can't recommend it as a completely graphic novel, but what I'm trying to do is give you they were my best top 10. Just going to quickly, if you want to bear with me 2 more minutes, honourable mentions. And again, I have reviewed all of these in all of my weeks, so you can fast forward and try and find them. I've got all the covers of each one on the thumbnails, so you haven't got to spend hours trying to dig these out. Yeah, honourable mention for that. What's the furthest place from here? It's just a weird, again, post-apocalyptic story. Vanish, the team, you know, Stegman and what's his name, Donny Cates, that were on Venom for Donkeys. Just kind of magic stroke superheroes in that, but really enjoyed it. It does exactly what it says on the tin. Nothing wrong with that. These are just honourable mentions that I didn't know where to squeeze into the top 10 and all the rest of it, and I cheated with the back books. This is beautiful as a horror, as a modern day kind of urban twisted tale of horror. 10,000 Black Feathers. I'm not sure. I'm thinking this is issue 4. I'm thinking I'm knowing where it's going, and I'm enjoying it nevertheless. But that's another honourable mention. And the last one, to round off the entire year, and if you have been watching my weekly videos, you probably already know because of the build-up I'm giving it. I'd just like to say, out of all my top 10 favourite comics and all of the honourable mentions, I'd just like to say that I also got wind this year. I just don't get fed up saying that, alright? I got wind this year, alright? It's a great book. Again, fantasy quest, artwork, fantastic. James Tynion IV on the writing duties. Just great characters. Each issue is giving us a new tease or a different way we thought, you know, from the way we thought the story or the characters were going. But it's a traditional fantasy quest story, and again, nothing wrong with that. So I'm going to leave it there, and I hope I persuaded someone, and let me know if you are going to get some, or you have got, you know, when you do, please come back and comment, let me know, because I really do want to help promote all these great guys and girls producing this, all this great stuff. And we've got to get in the shops and start buying comics, because there's some good stuff out there. And on that note, I will bid you adios.